This is Pragya, and I bring to you excerpts from current issue of Outlook on Islamophobia. Scarred Forever by Rakhi Bose from Outlook. Residents of Northeast Delhi relive the traumatic memories of the February 2020 carnage amid an endless wait for justice. Since he lost the use of his legs, 19-year-old Muhammad Sameer dreams of becoming a doctor. A physiotherapist, to be exact, he says. Sameer was shot by a violent Hindu mob outside Aqsa Masjid near Chaman Park in Delhi on February 24, 2020. His assailants were never caught. A student of class 9 at the time, Sameer was amongst the 102 people who received bullet injuries during the week of communal violence that consumed the northeastern neighborhood of Delhi. He was 15 at the time. The shrapnel hit his spinal cord, leaving him in a paraplegic state, paralyzed from the waist down. He spent over a month on a ventilator. I was depressed for many months. I failed to understand why this has happened to me or to us, he says, referring to the violence. The violence left at least 53 dead, nearly 300 injured, and hundreds of lives in turmoil. Those days will always haunt me. I lost everything, says 53-year-old Salim Qasir. The specter of his older brother's burning body, set alight by a mob of communally charged men while he washed, hidden from a second-floor window, is something he cannot forget. The violence, which began at Mojpur following divisive speeches by BJP leaders like Kapil Mishra, Anurag Thakur, against the Anti-Citizenship Amendment Act sit-in protests, first spread to protest sites like Jafrabad, Chandbagh, Kardampuri, and later to residential areas like Mustafabad, Gokulpuri, Shiv Vihar, and Khajuri Khas, where Hindus and Muslims have coexisted peacefully for decades. The violence changed the DNA of the neighborhoods. Salim, who once owned 2 Almira factories, 3 auto rickshaws, 2 private cars, and a house on Prem Vihar street of the Hindu-dominated Shiv Vihar, says, "Everything was burnt by the rioters, many of whom were locals who knew me. It was unbelievable. His house was demolished and burnt too. He now lives in a flat offered by a friend in Mustafabad." 5 people were eventually arrested in the murder of Anwar Qasir, 56. Sameer, however, claims that 4 of the accused are out on a bail and were welcomed back to their neighborhoods with fanfare. He feels that the police as well as the administration are on the side of the perpetrators even today. So he has not returned to the ruins of his old house, where he had lived for 40 years of his life. "My family was the only Muslim family on that street, and we have lived peacefully for years. I was very loved and respected, but now the Hindutva-vadis there will not let me return," he states. When the news of violence in Haryana's news spread to Northeast Delhi earlier this month, and Hindu organizations like BHP, Bajrang Dal and others called protest rallies across Delhi, including in the sensitive locations in Northeast Delhi, many in the area were stunned and scared. The police and the government know what happened here. How can they allow such rallies and communally charged processions so close to us? Salim asks. Standing beside him, Shaukat, who survived a bullet in 2020, nods and instinctively touches the scar above his right knee. 3.5 years since the bloodshed, the neighborhood seems to carry the memories of violence in its body, like the bullet holes on the survivors. Streets that once had mixed population of Hindus and Muslims now bear marks of segregation. Barricades on the streets and men patrolling with saffron flags on bikes amidst the sounds of azan from across the street. Many of the former residents have left. The neighborhood has changed. For this and more, read the current issue of Outlook